Hello, it's Classy here, back with another Tribes video, and today I'm going to be showcasing Killer B from the last banner with Kisame and Killer B, and he's a URD unit that you could have gotten for free at 1 star, and a lot of people built him up to 5 stars. So this is Kongnar's Killer B from server 16, and he built his from 1 star all the way to 5 stars. So he sent a lot of screenshots and some clips from Arena as well. So I'll just use these instead of hopping into the game. And here we go. So right now we have 68k power, tier 16, level 88, and the highest in the server right now. And the art is really nice for this Killer B, I think. Compared to the Six Tails one, they're like pretty even for me, I'd say. And the reason why I like this art is because it shows kind of like his speed, just the way that it's drawn and how the air is flying around his arms. So it just shows that he's really fast and also will land a heavy blow just by how his fist is like flaming up. So I do think this 5 star art is pretty good for a UR, but definitely not the best one. And his name is the Roaring Bull Strongarm. So basically this is when he has his 8 tails form, similar to how Naruto has the 6 tail version. So here are the stats right now at level 88, and you can see everything is pretty balanced. Guard suppression rate is not too high, I'd say, but as a D unit, his stats are going to lean more towards the defensive side. So things like guard rate, damage increase rate. Well, damage increase rate isn't part of the defensive side, but it seems to be pretty high. And critical rate as offensive stats as well. So it seems like he has pretty good offensive stats, actually. Some of them even higher than his defensive stats. So probably more of a aggressive tank unit rather than a full tank unit. And we'll see later on with his kit why this is. And for link bonuses, we have A and Darui. So, you know, those are members of his village that he works with, and also like his brother. Yamato and Naruto, which makes sense because that's his village in Turkey. And Yamato is like the one that's helping Naruto when he transforms. Then Kisame and Itachi, mainly because he fought Kisame. And we also have a new tribe with this Killer B. So he'll do it with Darui and A. And he does 100% plus 240% damage to one enemy, dealing 50% extra damage to attack Shinobi. Boosts all allies' damage reduction rate by 18%, guard rates by 14%, and status effect suppression rate by 5%. So this tribe is pretty decent, I'd say. It's good for nuking A units. Like, for example, if you're fighting like an A unit boss and you just need to nuke him down, you could use this tribe mainly for all of that damage. And assuming you've upgraded these characters, of course, because if you haven't been buying like Darui Frag and stuff, then the tribe isn't going to do that much. So, you know, you probably want to start upgrading Darui if you really want to use this tribe. And remember, this is going to be for PvE content, so mainly for fighting bosses that are A-type. It'll also allow you to do less resets because the status effect rate of the afflicted enemy will go down, so they'll stun you less often. Then we have 2-tailed beast bombs with 6 tails Naruto. Deals 100% plus 70% damage to all active enemies. Boosts all allies attack by 12%, damage increase rate by 20%, and critical rate by 22%. So this is also a really solid tribe with a lot of attack buffs and offensive buffs. So tribes like these are more generic. Like you can use them for more circumstances, but as an AoE, you probably aren't going to use this against a single boss. Probably like maybe FG or Abyss, where there are multiple enemies for you to target, preferably 3, but you know, like this is still going to be useful for PvE, even if it targets 3 enemies. They'll just be different use cases. Alright, so his special ninjutsu, the Lariat, deals single target damage to 1 enemy, and with power creep, lowers all enemies' damage increase rate by 16% when his HP is 50% or above, boosts all allies' guard rate by 14%, and all allies' guard damage reduction rate by 16%. So yeah, this is a good jutsu. I'm pretty sure I've reviewed this before during my first look at the banner, but I said that this was a good jutsu back then, and I'm going to stick with my opinion now. The chances of his HP being 50% or above is pretty solid, just because he's a tank unit, and it'll be easier because the targeting, you know, in PvP and stuff is random, but also he'll take less damage in general, and he also boosts defensive stats. So hitting all 9 of your allies is really useful with these buffs to keep them alive. And you can also debuff your enemies, but this debuff doesn't affect their defensive stats, so you can put Killer B at the end, or if you really want, you could put him at the front too. It depends on what units you're using. But remember that D units in the middle generally is not a good idea in Arena, at least, and other PvP related modes, so try to avoid that. For skill 2, deals 100% plus 30% damage, so regular skill 2 damage, boosts all active allies damage reduction rate by 7%. So yeah, you know, nothing too special about this skill 2. It's not bad. You know, hitting 3 units potentially. Like DRR by 7% isn't terrible. It's not too crazy either. So, you know, his jutsu is definitely going to provide more defensive stats than this second skill will. But, you know, nowadays it won't matter too much because of Psy being the meta right now. So it's probably more likely that Killer B will be using jutsus instead of his second skill. Here's his skill 4 with limit break. He'll boost all active allies damage reduction rate by 27%. If he's active at the start of the turn, boost all allies damage reduction rate by 5% at the start of any turn after an ally has been defeated, and all allies critical suppression rate by 6% at the start of any turn after an ally has been defeated. So yeah, we can see that Killer B in fact is just a tank with good offensive stats, but all of his kit revolves around defensive stats and keeping your team alive. But I'm sure he'll hit pretty hard just because of how power creep works and the stats that I mentioned earlier. But for his 4th skill, this is just a good balance of different defensive stats you might need. Like, it gives critical suppression rate to prevent crit damage as much as possible. damage reduction rate as well, just to prevent, general damage. And he also has the guard rate boosts from his other skills as well, so that covers basically everything right now. If he increased status effect suppression rate, that would have been really good, but he doesn't do that right now. So keep in mind that he only affects the active allies for this huge boost, and then the smaller boosts, which basically proc every turn as long as you have the condition fulfilled, they're going to stack up as well. So it'll take some time, and hopefully your allies will have enough HP that by the time the boosts get pretty big, your allies won't be dead already. So, having this condition slightly balances him out. But, with Kakashi and other insta-jutsu stuff going on, and Sai giving chakra, it's really more likely that you'll have an ally be defeated like pretty early into a PvP match, and you'll probably have an enemy defeated pretty early into a PvP match as well. Just because like jutsus are happening more early and more often. But yeah, overall, very solid tank. Does he outshine some of the other tanks? It depends. Status effect is still like the most powerful thing right now for PvP. So if you have tanks that can interact with those, you probably still want to keep those. But if you're missing a tank and you have a spot that you want to put a tank in, you should really consider him, because he pretty much does everything a tank should do and more, and he just doesn't interact with status effects. That's like the one thing that makes him less desirable than some of the other tanks. And you know who I'm talking about already. Like, everybody uses them. And yeah, let me see if I can find his vitality, because that matters. I'm putting a lot more emphasis on vitalities now too. And he has the tank vitality, as I like to call it, where he just gets chakra when he takes damage. Yeah, that like brings him down a little bit more, because this one isn't, necessarily the best one. And if he's taking damage, I guess you'll get chakra back, but you'll also lose out on your first skills debuffs if you go below 50%. So it's kind of like you lose something and then you gain something. If that makes sense. But it could have been worse. This is not the worst vitality, and for tanks it's not terrible. But I don't think this was the best vitality he could have gotten. So that does make him a little bit less desirable than the other tanks. Here's the team that we have right now. We're just like testing. See, we have Killer B in the last spot in energy. Tanks, you could put them in spirit and energy. Usually it depends. Like 2 tanks with Sai is pretty decent most of the time. Obviously, Sasori works well with Santa and Naruto. Sasori is one of those like the top tier tanks, and he can interact with status effects in multiple ways, and he applies his own status effects and does AoE, and he just does a ton of stuff. Sage Jiraiya is also a really great tank, and being in force helps him heal, and he can heal a lot, which is really powerful. And having the stun burn combo as an AoE also makes him really good for PvP stuff. But yeah, besides that, Kisame is also here, so we'll get to see him again in action. I think Kongnar has his limit break 2, so we might be able to see some extra chakra from the Kisame and Sai combo. So let's take a look and see what happens. Okay, so You turn the quality up. But yeah, see what I mean? So we already have an enemy that died. I guess we'll see Kisame's combo. Yep, the tail beast without a tail, as well as side. That's just a ton of extra chakra. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter here since they already had almost full chakra bars. I like the animation for the water prison. But yeah, I mean, hopefully one of our allies can die sooner or later so we can see Killer B do his stuff. But yeah, a lot of damage to the enemy right now. Okay, perfect tail beast control. That's the damage reduction rate increased by like 27% or something right now, since we don't have any allies that are dead. And I guess that's also like another problem with how B was designed. Like if you think about it, the fact that all of his boosts is keeping his allies alive as long as possible means that that counteracts his fourth skill conditions that he needs allies to die also. It just kind of works in different directions. So the devs didn't think this one through. They need to push characters in a certain direction and not just make them a mixed bag. Because like if they're just making them a mixed bag, it won't really be useful eventually. But anyways, he's giving damage reduction rate up. You can see that already. Has full chakra because of all the chakra boosts from earlier. Oh, the animation's pretty cool. And look at that damage. Like, that's actually a really solid amount of damage, and I think, you know, that might have just... Did that one-shot him? Yeah, he was full HP, so he just one-shot Six Tails. And in Arena, like a high-priority target like Six Tails, if you one-shot him, that'd be really helpful. So, I already talked about how he can nuke. And here's the guard, damage reduction rate up, and I think guard rate up. All the text just kind of flashes by really quickly, but just more defensive buffs pretty much. And also damage increase rate down, as you saw in Kakashi, because he has more than 50% HP. Oh, well, see, the defensive boosts help keep Sai alive, which is also a high priority target, if not the highest priority target right now. And, okay, Killer B doesn't proc there, just because no allies have died. Are we going to have any allies die this game? Toby actually does a good amount of damage, especially when, you know, people start using tanks more often. Okay, Sai's dead here. There we go. Yep. So Killer B doesn't even need to be in the rotation right now for him to proc this part of his fourth skill. And what does it give? Like critical suppression rate and damage rate up. Or sorry, damage reduction rate up, I think. Like 5% each, something around that. No, just small boosts that stack over time. Similar to Kisame's, where he gives small chakra boosts, not as much as Sai, every turn after you kill an enemy. That might be game, to be honest. Yeah, that is game. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, I understand this was a little bit late, but I guess it took me some time to get clips because I didn't really upgrade my own Killer B. I didn't really have as much of a use for him as some other players might have, just because I have a lot of good D units right now. So hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something.